The sky was heavy and gray, the clouds thick like a woolen blanket, blocking out even the faintest sliver of sunlight. Drops of rain fell like sharp needles, drenching the streets and turning the sidewalks into small rivers. A storm had come suddenly, faster than anyone expected, and with it came the cold that settled deep into the bones. In the midst of the downpour, Zara, a 13-year-old black girl with long braids sticking to her face, hurried along the cracked sidewalk. Her school bag, old and patched up from last year, bounced against her back, water soaking the notebooks inside, her shoes squelched with every step, the thin soles offering little protection against the freezing rainwater, pooling in the gutters. Zara was late for the last bus stop, but more than that, she was tired, mentally and emotionally. The school day had been harsh. Her classmates had whispered and laughed behind her back, mocking her worn-out clothes, her torn backpack and her thin shoes. Teachers had given instructions she barely understood, scribbling notes she could barely keep up with. Every day felt like a battle, but today felt worse. Today, her classmates had gone too far, calling her names that cut deeper than the cold rain. And now, alone, trudging down the street with no one to talk to, the world seemed gray and endless. She wanted only one thing: to get home, to be safe, to be dry. The rain fell harder, and Zara quickened her pace, but her soaked jacket weighed her down. Her hands, tucked deep in her pockets, trembled with the cold. Her braids clung to her face, and she wiped them away with a sleeve, only to have them stick again. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten lunch because she was running late, and every step seemed heavier than the last. As she rounded the corner, the streetlights flickered, struggling against the thick storm clouds. The street was empty. The only sound, the patter of rain against the pavement and the occasional splash as a car drove past. Zara's eyes stung from both rain and tears. Her vision blurred as sobs escaped her lips, mingling with the sound of the storm. She stopped under a broken street lamp, drenched from head to toe, and leaned against the cold metal pole. She wanted to cry, and so she did. Her shoulders shook violently as silent tears slid down her cheeks. Every humiliation, every insult from school, every hardship she faced at home, all of it poured out at once. Minutes passed. She didn't notice the puddles forming around her feet, the way her shoes squelched deeper into the water. She didn't notice the lonely street around her. All she could feel was the storm inside and the storm outside. Then she heard the sound of an engine, soft at first, then growing louder. A sleek black car rolled down the street, its headlights cutting through the rain like twin searchlights. It slowed as it approached her, and she instinctively stepped back. Her heart raced. She wanted to scream, to run, but the car stopped beside her, and the window rolled down. A man's voice, calm but deep, spoke. "Are you all right, young lady?" Zara froze. The rain dripped down the window onto his hand. His face was partly hidden under the brim of a hat, but there was no malice in his eyes, only concern. I'm fine," she mumbled, her teeth chattering. "You don't look fine," he said gently. "Get in. I'll take you somewhere safe until the storm passes." Zara hesitated. Every warning she had ever been taught surged through her mind. Never get into a stranger's car. Never trust someone you don't know. But the cold, the soaking rain, and the fear of being alone overwhelmed her instincts. Slowly, she opened the passenger door. The man smiled reassuringly as she got in. Warm air hit her like a blanket as the door closed behind her. She sat stiffly, hugging her wet jacket to herself. The car smelled faintly of leather and citrus air freshener. "You're safe now," the man said softly. He kept his eyes on the road, but his calm voice eased some of her tension. Zara didn't speak. She just watched the rain pour down the window, tracing patterns as her mind raced. Who was this man? Why had he stopped for her? What would happen next? Outside, the storm raged. But inside the car, a fragile sense of safety began to form. For the first time in hours, maybe days, Zara allowed herself to breathe. The man glanced at her again. "I know things can feel overwhelming, but you're stronger than you think. Hold on to that." Zara's lips quivered. She didn't know whether to cry again or to speak. She just nodded silently, feeling the warmth of the car seep into her frozen body and the first small flicker of hope take root. The black car cruised slowly through the slick streets, tires splashing through the puddles that reflected the stormy sky. Inside, warmth and dryness wrapped around Zara like a protective cocoon, a stark contrast to the relentless rain outside. She hugged her wet jacket, trying to calm her shivering body. But her mind refused to settle. She glanced at the man driving. He was quiet, composed, and wore a dark hat that shadowed most of his face. Despite his calmness, there was a gentle aura about him, something that made her feel safe yet wary. She studied the soft leather seats, the gentle hum of the engine, and the quiet rain beating against the window. Her heart was still pounding from fear, but curiosity battled with caution. "Thank you for stopping," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. The man glanced at her from the corner of his eye. "No need to thank me. Everyone deserves help when they need it, especially when the storm hits hard, outside and inside." Zara tilted her head, unsure what he meant. He smiled faintly, but his eyes remained serious. "Storm inside?" she asked hesitantly. "Yeah," he said. "We all face storms. Some are easy to see, like this rain. Others are inside us, the ones no one notices until it's almost too late." Her stomach twisted as she thought about the day she'd had, the insults, the loneliness, the cold walk home. She swallowed hard. I guess my storm is today," she admitted. The man nodded slowly. "It's okay. Storms aren't bad. They teach us who we really are, and they show us who cares enough to help." Zara stared at him, unsure whether to trust his words. They drove past the familiar streets of her neighborhood. Shops shuttered against the rain. Neighbors huddled indoors, and the occasional street lamp casting golden reflections on the puddles. "I didn't know what else to do," she said softly, breaking the silence. I was just crying. I didn't mean to bother anyone." "You weren't bothering anyone," he replied gently. "Crying is a way to release. It's strength, not weakness. I've seen many people hide it, and it only makes the storm grow worse." Zara's fingers clutched her jacket tighter. "But how do I know you're not, dangerous?" she asked, voice trembling. He smiled faintly, almost sadly. "You don't. That's part of life. You take risks, and sometimes those risks lead you to safety instead of danger. I promise, I mean no harm." She hesitated, then relaxed slightly. There was a calm honesty in his tone she hadn't felt from anyone in days. Her breath slowed, and for the first time since the storm began, she felt a flicker of hope. The man guided the car to a small covered pavilion near a local park. "We can wait here until the rain dies down," he said. The gentle patter of raindrops on the roof created a rhythm that almost felt soothing. Zara stepped out carefully, her soaked shoes slipping slightly on the wet pavement. She stood under the pavilion as he handed her a dry blanket from the back seat. The warmth embraced her immediately, and she wrapped it around her shoulders. "You know," he said softly, "sometimes people forget that kindness exists. They assume everyone is selfish or cruel, but it's not true. There are still people willing to stop, listen, and help, even strangers." Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they weren't only from the cold or the rain. They were a mixture of relief, gratitude, and disbelief. I've never had anyone just care like this," she whispered. The man nodded. "It's a rare gift to be seen, truly seen. Most people rush by or look away, but you deserve to be seen tonight." They sat in silence for a while, the storm outside continuing to rage. Zara slowly started to speak about her school, her friends, and the teasing she endured. She told him how lonely she sometimes felt, how heavy the world could seem. He listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or offering small words of encouragement. "You're stronger than you think," he finally said. "And the world will notice your strength someday. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will." Zara's heart fluttered. Could someone she'd never met believe in her so deeply? The warmth of the blanket, the sound of the rain, and the gentle voice beside her made the storm inside her feel less overwhelming. The black car sat silently nearby, engine idling, as if waiting for her to be ready. She looked at the stranger, still mysterious, still unfamiliar, and realized that sometimes the most unexpected people could appear in your life exactly when you needed them most. "Thank you," she said again softly, meaning it from the bottom of her heart. "You're welcome, Zara," he replied, the first time saying her name. "You'll be okay, I promise. One step at a time, through storms or sunshine." The rain showed no sign of stopping yet, but inside Zara, a calmness began to grow. The storm had started to lift, not because it had ended outside, but because she had found someone willing to stand with her in the middle of it. And in that moment, She realized that even the darkest nights could bring unexpected light. The storm outside finally began to lose its fury. The rain had lightened to a steady drizzle, and the clouds were slowly breaking apart, revealing slivers of golden sunlight that reflected off the puddles on the street. Zara sat wrapped in the dry blanket the stranger had given her, feeling warmth seep into her cold, trembling body. For the first time that night, she felt safe. The stranger, who had remained quietly beside her under the pavilion, finally spoke again. His voice was calm, carrying a weight of experience that reassured her. "Zara, I want you to know something," he said. "Life can be cruel, and storms will always come, but it's how we respond that defines us." Zara looked up at him, curiosity and trust mingling in her eyes. "Who are you?" she asked softly. "I'm someone who saw you," he said simply. "And I couldn't walk away." The words were simple, but they carried a profound truth that Zara hadn't expected. All her life she had been overlooked, dismissed and judged. But this stranger, a complete unknown, had stopped everything just to help her. She blinked back tears, realizing the world still had pockets of goodness. He handed her a small package, a new set of school supplies, a clean notebook, and a pair of dry shoes. "These are for you," he said. "Not because you asked, but because you deserve them." Zara's voice quivered. I don't even know how to thank you." "You don't need to," he replied. "Just promise me one thing. Keep walking, keep learning, and never let anyone's cruelty stop you from being who you are." The words sank deep into her heart. She nodded, hugging the gifts close to her chest. She noticed something remarkable. She no longer felt the cold as acutely. The warmth wasn't just from the blanket or the shoes. It was from hope. For the first time, she believed someone truly cared. The stranger guided her toward the edge of the street where her house was visible. Its windows glowed softly, promising the comfort of home. Zara's mother had been anxiously watching from the porch, wringing her hands as the storm raged. When she saw her daughter approaching with the stranger, relief and disbelief washed over her face. "Mom!" Zara called, running the last few steps. She held out the gifts. He helped me." Her mother looked from the stranger to her daughter, then back again. You stayed safe?" she asked, voice trembling. "Yes, Mom," Zara said, her lips curling into a shy but genuine smile. "I'm okay." The stranger turned to leave, but Zara grabbed his hand lightly. "Wait, will I see you again?" He smiled. "Maybe. But remember, Zara, the courage and strength you carry are yours. You don't need me to walk your path. You already have everything you need." With that, he climbed into his black car and drove away, disappearing into the streets that were now glistening under the soft morning sun. Zara ran inside, holding her mother tightly. The warmth of home, the safety of family, and the kindness of a stranger had combined into a profound lesson that, even in the darkest storms, light can appear when least expected. Over the next few weeks, life began to change. The small acts of generosity inspired by the stranger rippled through her neighborhood. Local community members heard about her story and reached out, offering support, dry clothes, school supplies, and mentorship. Zara's confidence began to grow. She walked to school with her head held higher, her strides firmer, and a new spark in her eyes. Her classmates noticed. Some who had mocked her began to apologize, while others simply observed quietly, sensing the change in her aura. The girl who once felt invisible now carried herself with the quiet strength of someone who had endured a storm and emerged resilient. One afternoon, Zara returned to the pavilion where the black car had stopped beside her. During the storm, she didn't expect to see the stranger again, but she wanted to leave a note of thanks. A simple, "I will remember your kindness." She left it tucked beneath a stone at the edge of the pavilion, a small token of gratitude. Years later, Zara would reflect on that night as the turning point of her life. The storm, the fear, and the kindness of a stranger had taught her something invaluable. That life would challenge her, but courage, hope, and faith in humanity could guide her through any darkness. From that day on, Zara walked through the rain with her head held high. She carried her sketchbook, her dreams, and the memory of a stranger's selfless act with her always. No storm, no insult, no hardship could ever take that away. And whenever the rain fell heavily, she would smile quietly, remembering that sometimes the most unexpected light shines brightest in the darkest moments.
No.
End of story. Black girl left. Crying in the rain, a stranger in a black car stops beside her.